Tubby Hayes there was using a bit of recording trickery to play three tenors, baritone, sax, piano and vibes more or less all at the same time. I can remember Tubby as a young tenor sax amateur from 10 years ago when he led a wild little bop quartet of lads just out from school, all four of them in flowered shirts hanging outside their trousers, making Tubby in particular look even shorter and tubbier than he was. And of course that famous Hayes grin was there then, just as it still is now that Tubby has reached the top of the British jazz tree. We invited Tubby Hayes along to our jazz session studio to find out more about this young jazz veteran. In fact, Tubby, how old were you when you became a full-time professional musician?
I was 15. When I left school, I went straight to being a professional musician. My father said, well, you know, you should have stayed at school longer, but I said, I want to play. So he said, well, I'll give you 12 months to try and get somewhere. If not, you settle down and get a job.
And where did you get in those 12 months then?
Well, I joined Kenny Baker about 6 months after that, on the road. And I spent about 9 months with Kenny's band, which was very enjoyable. You know, we played some good things, and I learned ever such a lot from playing with Kenny, who was a fine musician, and also from Jimmy Skidmore, who was the other tenor player, and he gave me a lot of encouragement and a few, you know, bits of friendly advice, and we got on very well, and I learned a lot from Jimmy.
Because he's one of the grand old men of British jazz, really.
Still a wonderful player. Jimmy has got a wonderful ear, and I think once he's heard a thing, a phrase, he'll always play it. He'll play it right, you know.
Have you found that's true of all good jazz musicians, though, that they do have a very good ear?
Mostly, not always. I don't think it always applies. I think there are certain jazz musicians who rely too much on their technical ability and knowledge of chords, and they don't really improvise.
Don't you think that shows?
It shows in certain musicians, I think, yes. But I think on the whole, the really great jazz musicians have all got wonderful ears, and I think the ones, you know, who don't use it aren't really in that class.
Well, the first sort of 3 or 4 years of being a professional, you basically were a tenor sax player.
Up until 1956, I didn't play anything else. And then, I'll tell you how it came about. Victor Feldman was over here on a holiday from Woody Herman's band, and he was working with us at the one of the clubs in town. And it was Christmas Day, and he wasn't there, but his vibraphone was left behind. I was working with Dill Jones that night and Jimmy Skidmore, and we were all in a little, you know, merry sort of Christmas spirit and all that. And I just picked up the vibraphone mallets, and we played Bag's Groove. I'd never played the vibraphone before. Admittedly, it was a nice, easy tempo, and everybody seemed to like it, and so I thought, well, it might come in as a useful double, which it certainly has done. And when Victor went back, I purchased the vibraphone that he was using at the time, and started using it more or less straight away on the jobs, you know. But as I went along, I've been practicing it at the same time. I've been very lucky, really, that I could learn the trade on the job.
Well, Tubby, do you have a different approach to each of the different instruments that you play?
When I play the saxophone, that's it, it's the saxophone. When I play the vibraphone, I get a certain amount of feeling of a drum technique, of a piano. I love playing the piano. I'm no good at it, but I love to sit down and work things out, and I get a kick out of playing the vibes for that reason. And the flute, I don't think of it as a flute when I play it. I think of it as a trumpet. Because I've got no embouchure for playing a trumpet. I never could blow a note on it, but on the flute I can express myself more in the way as if I was playing a trumpet. I don't know if that sounds strange.
Which jazz musicians have had most influence on your playing, Tubby?
I've been influenced by quite a few musicians in my time, you know, but I point out Charlie Parker. I mean, I think I was influenced by him more than anybody, because I think he was the greatest saxophone player ever, and probably one of the greatest modern jazz musicians ever. I was influenced by Stan Getz, more recently by Johnny Griffin and John Coltrane, who I think is one of the most brilliant of today's American modern jazzmen. I think that although his music is often sounds, you know, very far out and very highly technical, I think that underneath all that, it's also very logical what he's playing.